This House notes that documents released under the Government Information and Privacy Act and to this House Understanding Order 52 reveal that A, in 2018, Professor Mark Taylor, a Professor of Environmental Science and Human Health at Macquarie University, specialising in environmental contamination, was engaged by the government's Broken Hill Environmental Lead Program to assess lead risks in Broken Hill. B, in December 2019, Professor Taylor presented his findings of his report, Environmental Lead Risks at Broken Hill, New South Wales, Australia, Sources, Exposures and Forward Solutions, to the New South Wales Environment Protection Authority, which showed that blood lead levels in the children of Broken Hill remained high and that both legacy and current lead emission must be addressed if children's blood lead levels were to be reduced. C, Professor Taylor briefed the Interagency Broken Hill Environmental Lead Program Steering Committee on his findings in February and May 2020. In September 2020, the committee discussed preparing the report for its release and briefed the then EPA CEO Tracy Mackie. E, between March and September 2022, Professor Taylor repeatedly reached out to the EPA to seek an update on when the report would be published, expressing concern over the significant delays. F, emails show that the EPA shared the Taylor report with mining companies sometime in late 2022. G, in early 2023, the EPA shared the report with New South Wales Health and the Department of Premier and Cabinet, and in March, the new EPA CEO, Tony Chappell, was personally briefed by Professor Taylor on the report's findings. H, between March and October 2023, emails show that the EPA discussed releasing the report with no fanfare or media releases, which meant to quietly load it onto the LeadSmart website and not tell anyone, and that a number of issues needed to be worked through prior to release, including the reaction from the mines and timing re-Cadia and parliamentary inquiry. I, on the 30th of October 2023, the EPA briefed Broken Hill mining companies CBH, Resources and Perelia about the upcoming release of the report, stating there will be no proactive media, the EPA have holding lines prepared if needed, that the EPA is not doing any finger pointing at the mines, and they'll give the mines a heads up if we receive any media requests. 2, that this House further notes that A, Professor Mark Taylor, in a separate report prepared in 2020 for the Louis Action Group in the Bowdens Silver EIS, states that the gold standard in protecting public health from lead is primary prevention, and further notes Roman numeral 1, several areas of concern with the EIS, including the potential inaccuracy of the baseline soil and dust values used, which would result in the relative impact of mine-related exposure appearing less significant compared to existing exposure, and Roman numeral 2, that based on the EIS assessment of existing lead concentrations in local rainwater tanks, any additional deposition into those tanks would potentially result in exceedance of the Australian Drinking Water Guideline values. B, Dr. Roger Drew, a toxicologist who was commissioned by the New South Wales Department of Planning, Industry and Environment to review the human health and risk assessment undertaken by NRISKs for Bowdens Silver, stated that it contained many shortcomings, including excluding any assessment of health risks at project-related residences, miscalculating the risk measure for exposure to airborne lead, using a questionable method for determining potential impacts on blood lead levels and potentially underestimating the exposure to metals including lead. C, on the 19th of October 2023, at a deliberative meeting of Portfolio Committee number 2 for the inquiry into current and potential impacts of gold, silver, lead and zinc mining on human health, land, air and water quality in New South Wales, urgently called by the Honourable Greg Donnelly, the Chair's proposed witness list for the 27th of October 2023 final hearing was amended on the motion of Mr Donnelly and supported by the opposition to remove Professor Mark Taylor from the witness list, along with Professor Deborah Yates, a respiratory physician in the Department of Thoracic Medicine at St Vincent's Hospital, and to replace them with the Country Mayors Association and local business chambers. D, in the first few days of November 2023, the EPA uploaded Professor Mark Taylor's report to the LeadSmart website. E, the final report of Portfolio Committee number 2 Health's inquiry into current potential impacts of gold, silver, lead and zinc mining on human health, land and air quality in New South Wales was tabled on the 15th of December 2023 and does not contain any reference to Mark Taylor's report on environmental lead risks in Broken Hill. And F, On the 25th of August 2025, a peer-reviewed paper was published in the Medical Journal of Australia by Cortez Ramirez et al. On the public health impacts of mining in Australia, which found 1. Exposure to agents released during mining operations such as cadmium, iron, manganese, zinc, arsenic and lead is associated with neoplastic and non-neoplastic diseases in adults and children. 2. Mining of lead is specifically associated with negative fertility effects in men and with intellectual disability and impaired immune function in children. 3. These findings are consistent with extensive research globally, but human studies in this field are scarce in Australia. And 4. The academic and health sectors need to fill the knowledge gap of the health consequences of mining operations in the population in mining communities across the country. 3. That this House acknowledges that A. The Independent Planning Commission did not have access to Professor Mark Taylor's report on environmental lead risks in Broken Hill when making a determination on the original development application for Bowdens Silver Mines in April 2023. B. Portfolio Committee number 2 did not have access to Professor Taylor's report and was prevented from interviewing him when conducting an inquiry into current and potential impacts of gold, silver, lead and zinc mining on human health, land, air and water quality in New South Wales. C. The environmental impact assessment and the human health risk assessment conducted for Bowdens Silver Mine's proposed silver, lead and zinc mine in Louis in the Mudgee region are not fit for the purpose of assessing the proposed mine due to 1. Advice from multiple government agencies and from independent reviewers pointing to considerable inadequacies in the EIS and HERA, and 2. Significant new information coming to light since the EIS and HERA were developed in 2024. That this House calls on the government to require the assessment for Bowdens Silver Mine project at Louis to recommence as a new application, including the requirement for an updated EIS and human health risk assessment, including public consultation that takes into consideration all available evidence about the impact of lead mining on human health and the environment.